This is obviously the most viral interview I think you've done with Cathy Newman. Would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
And it's one where I've seen even leftists, if you look at the feedback, saying, okay, this is an example of someone who I disagree with, but this person is reasonable. The feedback on the Cathy Newman interview is almost entirely positive. Would you say that's compared with other interviews that were seen as more polarizing, would you say that's a relatively accurate assessment?
Yeah, the only exception would be that there was a flurry of newspaper articles after the interview came out, claiming that Cathy Newman was victimized by my evil army of trolls, because I seem to apparently have an evil army of 5 million trolls.
Yes.
Which is a lot of trolls. You know, at some point you start wondering if the trolls are just normal people.
Yeah.
But yes, I would say that the apart from the press, and there was a lot of
they want people to think you have direct access to Jim Henson's Creature Shop and you're sending them out. Yeah,
exactly. And well, and the Guardian claimed, and Channel 4 as well, that they had to bring in the police to do a security analysis, and you can bring in the police under any circumstances. Doesn't mean that the threats are credible. And I don't think they produced any evidence whatsoever that the threats so-called were credible. But yes, I would say overwhelmingly the consensus is that Cathy Newman conducted that interview in a highly biased, ideologically rigid, confrontational, and inappropriate manner.
Okay, good. So I just want to make sure that we recap this. So your most viral interview, and certainly the feedback amongst viewers and listeners, as positive as we've seen this year. Let's kind of separate the media from it a little bit, because Cathy Newman is one of their own. So okay. So I think a big question here is, why is that? Why were you so successful with this? And obviously you're wildly successful. So by the way, take this or leave it. And I am not at all assuming that, for people, hold your comments, that I know anything more than Jordan Peterson on any given topic. He's a doctor. I'm not. Got it. What I will say is this: as an intellectual, as kind of an existentialist, and you've talked about this, sometimes you can be almost too smart for your own good. What I think you did with this interview so well, certainly I would say more perfectly than I've seen in any other interview, is this form of, I've talked about it, pattern disruption. And sometimes you'll wax on sometimes, which is in a way that's very intelligent, but the viewer may not necessarily directly correlate it to a point. I think what you did with Cathy Newman that was so effective is you asked a follow-up question, you made her clarify her questions, which showcased them as absurd, and you lasered in on an answer better than I think I've ever seen you do. Not that you haven't done it well, but you did it with every question here. It was almost like a boxer just coming back, making her overreach, and straight down the pipe. That's what I saw. Would you say maybe that's why? Did I lose? Oh, there he is.
I think I was fortunate that interview properly. I was fortunate to have handled that interview properly. I think what clued me in, very rapidly, was when I first sat down with her in front of the cameras before they were running. She was very friendly and engaging and chirpy, and I thought that we were actually going to have a conversation, because that's what we were having before the cameras rolled. But as soon as the cameras went on, it was like she was a completely different person. Mm-hmm. And what happened in some sense was that the clinical psychologist in me turned on, because that was such a dramatic shift in character. I thought, oh, there's something strange going on here. And so I got really detached from the interview. Not completely detached, because it was still a high pressure situation, I would say, but I started just to watch what she was doing instead of taking it personally. Mm. And what I realized almost immediately was that the person she was talking to bore virtually no resemblance to me. And so it was hard to take it personally. Like if people come after you with attacks, let's say, or insults, or they're after your character, and they cut close to the bone, well, that's one thing. But if they come at you with all sorts of accusations that really bear no relationship whatsoever to either what you think or what you said, then it's easier to be detached. And I've also been trying hard to maintain a sense of humor through everything that's happened over the last 18 months. And that's been difficult, partly because I've had very serious health problems. And of course, that makes having a sense of humor difficult, but also because in many situations, I had a lot on the line and wasn't sure how it was going to go. But my sense of humor has returned. And although I don't know if you can tell that in this interview yet, but it has. See, there's a smile.
Well, it's ironic, because usually in this is one of the few places where people going, oh, Jordan Peterson laughing. But I'm just fascinated. I wanted to get to this.
That's right.
You seem more relaxed.
With you.
Yeah, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You seem more relaxed
and
in the interview. More. I hate to use the word, but we use this a lot in combat sports. More fluid. You know, you were able to take what she gave you and every time return it back tenfold. And it's almost like, you know, that analogy, you're a tiger who kind of has to bleed a little bit before you're in the fight. I've noticed that when you're with friendly people, there's no time constraint. You have so much room to, you know, expand upon an idea. Sometimes being framed in by someone else who's confrontational might bring out the best in you.